Web server hacking methodologies. We have these methodologies of web server hacking, which is starting from footprinting the web infrastructure. Then we have attack web servers. We'll try to attack web servers, analyze the web applications. Then we can attack. The attacker will do that attacking on the authentication mechanism, attack on authorization scheme, attack session management mechanism, then perform the injection attacks, perform the attack on data connectivity, also attack web app clients, and finally try to attack on web services. Now this is the web server hacking methodology. Now for doing this web server hackings, we have different tools. We have these web hacking tools. First, Burp Suite Professional. This Burp Suite is an integrated platform for performing security testing of web application. Basically, it is designed to perform the security test. Now, attacker can also use this to do the malicious things. What this tool do? It acts as a proxy, and it try to grab all the get and post requests from the server. It try to grab the all post and get requests from the client and all the responses which is coming from the server, and it shows in detail those responses and requests, and also it gives the option to edit those requests and responses also. So it acts like a proxy. So whatever you are accessing in your browser, it will send this all the data will send it to this tool, and then this tool will show you that what is the request going on, what is the response going on, and in this tool we can do what? We can forward the request, we can modify the request, and also we can drop the request. Then we have Cookie Digger. This Cookie Digger helps identify weak cookie generation and insecure implementation of session management by web application. It works by collecting and analyzing cookies issued by a web application for multiple users. The tool reports on the predictability and entropy of the cookie, and whether critical information such as username and password are included in the cookie values. So this tool also works like a proxy. Do what? It captures all the cookies from different users and try to predict or try to see what is the weak cookie generation, or it will try to identify the cookie generation mechanism and see whether it is secure or not secure. Then we have WebScrap. This WebScrap is a framework for analyzing applications that communicate using the HTTP and HTTPS protocol, and it allows the attacker to review and modify requests created by the browser before they are sent to the server, and to review and modify responses returned from the server before they are received by the browser. Same as the Burp Suite. It do the same thing like the Burp Suite do. It captures all the responses and requests from the browser to the server and from the server to the browser, and also it gives an option to modify those requests also. Then we have these other tools also, which is for web application hacking. We have Instant Source, HTTPB, Teleport Pro, Web Copier, STTrack, CURL, Black Widow, GNU Widget. We have these all tools. Now next is countermeasures. We know those methodologies, we know those tools attacker use. Now we want to know how we can do the countermeasures and how we can secure our application and our server. So for doing the countermeasures, first we have encoding schemes. In web application, employ different encoding schemes for their data to safely handle unusual characters and binary data in the way you intend. So types of encoding schemes are URL encoding, In URL encoding, this is the process of converting URL into valid ASCII format so that data can be safely transported over HTTP. URL encoding replaces unusual ASCII characters with percentage followed by the characters 2-digit ASCII code expressed in the hexadecimal, such as percentage 3D, percentage 0A, new percentage 3D for equal, percentage 0A for new line, percentage 20 for space. So it do what? It encoded the URL. So if the attacker sees the URL, so it will not be able to see the URL and it will not be able to guess that what is written in the URL. So the values will not be there in URL. Then HTML encoding. An HTML encoding scheme is used to represent unusual characters so that they can be safely combined within an HTML document. It defines several HTML entities to represent particularly usual characters such as nmp, that is n, alt, that is greater than, ng, actually nlt, it is less than, ngt, it is greater than. So these are the HTML encoding the HTML to make it safely combined with the HTML document. This is the encoding scheme for doing the countermeasures. Then we have Unicode encoding. In Unicode encoding, it is 16-bit encoding. Unicode encoding, it replaces unusual Unicode characters with percentage %u followed by the characters Unicode code point express in hexadecimal. So if it will do what? It will convert unusual character with percentage %u and then it will add the Unicode code of that Unicode point characters Unicode, like whatever the characters are there, every character has its own Unicode point, so it will use that point here. After that, it is UTF-8. In UTF-8, it is a variable length encoding standard which uses each byte expressed in hexadecimal and preceded by the percentage prefix. So it uses this percentage as a prefix with the hexadecimal code for each byte expressed in hexadecimal. This is the UTF-8 encoding. Then we have base 64 encoding. In this base 64 encoding scheme represent any binary data using only printable ASCII characters. Usually it is used for encoding email attachments for safe transmission over SMTP and also used for encoding user credentials. Example, cake is equal to, we can say it will be like this. Cake will be like this, 0111000, like this. And in base encoding it will be like this, same, 0111 0110 111 like this. Then hexa encoding. HTML encoding schemes uses hex value of every character to represent a collection of characters for transmitting binary data. For example, if you write hello, so it will convert this into hexadecimal code of that word. JSON will convert it into this word. That is hex encoding. Then how to defend against SQL injection attack. Number one, limit the length of user input. That means if these injection attacks, actually these injection attacks successful, it is done on the field where on the field or on the where user can give inputs. It could be a search field, it could be a username or password field, email address field, comment field. So those fields where user put the input, user gives the input, in those fields SQL injection attack works. Now if we limit the user input, So if suppose if we want to make that user give the name, so we can limit the length of name, length of character for the user. So it will only accept the limit of characters. For example, suppose I say mobile number, the field the window says put the mobile number. Now mobile numbers are not more than 10 characters. So I will put the limit that only put the character limit to 10. Now if suppose someone try to put the injection query there, SQL query into that field of mobile, so mobile number, now query can be big, more than 10 characters, and now because I have set the limit, it will be failed. Then use the custom error messages. Instead of default error messages, use custom error messages, because these default error messages, with these default messages, actually it reveals the information about the query. Like when suppose attacker did this SQL query injection attack, so the information which attacker gets, it gets because of the error messages, as an error messages. Suppose it runs the query and it did the SQL injection and run the query to check the table information about the credit card table, a table of the credit cards. So it want to check the table, and in the table there is a column of credit card numbers. Now it wants to check that. It puts the query, and query successfully executed on server, executed on data SQL server. Now how the reply comes? Reply will come as an error. So attacker will see the reply as an error. But if we have configured in the application, if we have configured the error custom error, so if suppose something went wrong, so I have configured the custom error for it. So with the custom error, it will not give the information, like the information will not able to pass, because there is a custom error. It is not a default error. Then third, monitor database traffic using an IDS and web application filter. Now doing this, we can filter unwanted queries or unwanted or malicious queries. So we have to monitor the database traffic, like what is going to the database and what queries are going to database. We can do that by using IDS, intrusion detection system, and also we can use that by web application filters, WAF. Then number four, disable the commands like XP command shell, XP_command shell. This is an option we can enable on the database server, on the SQL server. This is not good. It is actually enable the vulnerability, because it actually execute the commands of the operating system through the database server. That means database server it can execute the command on the local server, a local operating system. So if this is disabled, then it is not able to run the command on the server. Then isolate database server and web servers. That means if we are having a database server, so database server must be separated from the web server. So we should configure the web server in the different machine and database server in another machine, so that it will not be executed. If the query is executed on the database server, so it will not be impact on the web server. So web server's information will not be revealed. Then number 6, always use method attribute set to post and low privilege account for DB database connection. So always use method attribute set to post. So whenever you get the post request when the user put the information, put the input and send the input to server. So you have to manage the attribute method. Like if suppose you set the email address, so only the email address will be accepted. Then also use the less privileged user account for connecting the database. So if you are using the less privileged account for connecting the database server, so if the query executed on the server, it will not run, it will get error because the user is not privileged. Then run the database. Number 7, run database services, a service account with the minimal right. That is the same thing like we do the privilege, a low privilege account for using the database connection. So also we should use the database service account with the minimum rights. The user account or the service account which is running the database services, it should be having minimal rights, so that when any command is executed through the SQL injection or SQL query, it will not be able to execute it because it does not have right to do that. Then move extended stored procedure to an isolated server. So move extended stored procedure to an isolated server. So if suppose your server is isolated from the network, so from the other servers, so we should use the extended stored procedure. That means storing the informations then use type safe variable of functions such as is numeric to ensure type safety. That means if you use a variable or function such as is numeric to ensure the type safety, that means if suppose you are giving a field for the numeric values, so only numeric values will be accepted, no other characters will be accepted there. And validate and sanitize validate and sanitize user inputs passed to the database. So every input of the user is going through the application. So on the application we have to configure the validation and sanitization for the inputs. Like if suppose some input is accepted, so only that input. Email address, that means only email address. No other queries will run on that input field, or no like special characters like which we used to do the we used to run the queries. Those characters must not be executed. Those characters must be filtered. Then how to defend against the command injection flows? First, perform the input validation. Every time when you use the input validation is if it is not there, then only these injection attacks will be possible. So always perform the input validation. That means whatever the user giving, whatever the input user is giving, it must be validated. Then escape dangerous characters. Dangerous characters which is used in the query. It is used in the command query or command injection. Like if it is used a query characters which is used in the query for SQL or command injection LDAP queries, that characters must be escaped. We don't have to accept those characters. Use language specific libraries that avoid problems due to shell commands. Now language specific, that means if your program is PHP, so use PHP specific libraries, or suppose it is HTML, CSS, whatever. So use the language specific libraries. So it will not be able to run the commands on shell. Shell command, that means commands on the operating system. Then perform the input and output encoding. So whatever the data is coming in or going out, we should use the encoding technique to encode the data. So if the attacker sees the URL, it will not be able to see that. It will not be able to see and understand that. Then use a safe API which avoids the use of the interpreter entirely. Now safe APIs, that means those APIs which is not having a vulnerability. So use always the safe and updated APIs. So it will avoid the use of the interpreter entirely. Then structure request so that all supplied parameters are treated as data rather than potentially executable contents. So whatever the input coming, it should be treated as a data. It should not be treated as a executable, because the queries and these command injections is getting successful because those queries or those data or those inputs which is coming to the server, it is treating like a executable, and that is why it becomes or it will execute. Use parameterized SQL queries. So always use parameterized SQL queries when you design the application. So when the application developer design the application and try to connect the web server, database server, SQL server, so it should use the parameterized SQL queries to configure on application, and use the modular shell disassociation from kernel so that it will not execute the command on kernel. How to defend against the cross-site scripting attack? First, validate all headers, cookies, query strings from form fields and hidden fields, that is all parameters, against a rigorous specification. So basically validation is important. Then use testing tools extensively during the design phase to eliminate such excess cross-site scripting holes in the application before it goes into use. So before, when it is in the developing phase, in that phase, use the intensive testing of this cross-site scripting holes. Try to test itself, try to test the application by yourself, so that it will not have any vulnerability related to cross-site scripting attack. Then use a web application firewall to block the execution of malicious script. So with the help of firewall, it should be blocked all the malicious scripts. Then convert all non-alphanumeric characters to HTML characters entities before displaying the user input in search engines and forums. So whenever convert all non-alphanumeric characters to HTML characters entities before displaying the user input in search engines. Like when you do the attacker run the search, if you run the search engine, it try to put the query into the search engine, so it will be converted into HTML character. So it will not the result which comes, it will not be visible to the user or visible to the attacker. Encode input and output and filter meta characters in the input field. So whatever input and output comings, it should be encoded, and all the meta characters in the input field. All the filter, will do the filter. Do not always trust websites that use HTTPS when it comes to cross-site scripting, because it does not matter if the site is secure by the HTTPS secure protocol. It is a secure protocol, but it will only secure the communication between server and client by using the encryption, but it will not protect the cross-site scripting attack, because this attack is happening because of the other problems like validation problem. So it can still be there, and the site can be affected by the cross-site scripting attack. To save it, filtering the script output can also defeat cross-site scripting vulnerability by preventing them from being transmitted to user. So filtering the script output, so whatever the script runs, those scripts output should not go to user. So if the attack is done, if the cross-site scripting attack is done on the server, the response will not go to the user. It will not see anything. Even the script is run, still they will not able to see anything. Develop some standard or signing script with private and public keys that actually check the assertion that the script introduced is really authenticated. So we should develop some standard or signing scripts with private and public keys. So whenever the script is coming into the server, it should be signed by some keys, secure keys, so that it can detect any assertion of the script introduced in the server authenticated. Is it authenticated or not authenticated? So it can check whatever the script is executing on server, it is authenticated or not. How to defend against the denial of service attack? First, configure the firewall to deny the external internet control message protocol (ICMP) traffic access. Then secure the remote administration and connectivity testing. Prevent use of unnecessary functions such as get, star copy, str copy, CPI, CPY and return addresses from overwritten, etc. Then prevent the sensitive information from overwriting. Perform throughput through input validation. So perform by yourself thorough or input validation things. Data processed by the attacker should be stopped from being executed. So whatever the data is coming from the input field, it should not be executed directly. How to defend against the web service attack? First, configure web service WSDL access control permissions to grant or deny access to and type of WSDL based SOAP messages. Use document centric authentication credentials that use SML. Then use multiple security credentials such as X.509 certificates, SAML, assertion and WS security. Then deploy web service capable firewalls capable of SOAP and ISAP, eye level filtering. Configure firewalls IDS systems for a web service normally and signature detection. Configure firewall IDS system to filter improper SOAPs and XML syntax. Then implement centralized inline request and response schema validation. Then block external references and use prefetched content when dereferencing URLs. Maintain and update a secure repository of XML schemas. Now, guidelines for secure CAPTCHA implementation. First, the client should not have direct access to the CAPTCHA solution. Then, no CAPTCHA reuse and present randomly distorted CAPTCHA image of text to the user. Then use a well-established CAPTCHA implementation such as reCAPTCHA instead of creating your own CAPTCHA script, and allow user to choose an audio or sound CAPTCHA. Then wrap individual letters so that OCR engines cannot recognize them. Include random letters in the security code to avoid dictionary attack. Encrypt all communication between the website and the CAPTCHA system. Use multiple fonts inside a CAPTCHA to increase the complexity of OCR engines to solve the CAPTCHA. Then web application attack countermeasures. First, invalidated redirects and forwards. For that, avoid using redirect and forwards. If destination parameters cannot be avoided, ensure that the supplied value is valid and authorized for the user. Then broken authentication and session management attack. For this, use SSL for all authentication parts of the application. Verify whether all the users identities and credentials are stored in a hashed form. Never submit session data as part of GET and POST request. Then insecure cryptographic storage attack. First, do not create or use weak cryptographic algorithms. Generate encryption keys offline and store them securely. Ensure that encrypted data stored on a disk is not easy to decrypt. Then cross-site request forgery attack. For this, log off immediately after using a web application and clear the history. Do not allow your browser and website to save login details. Check the HTTP referer header, and when processing a post, ignore URL parameters. Then web application attack countermeasure continues. Here we have insufficient transport layer protection attack. In this, no non-SSL request to web pages could be redirected to the SSL pages. Then set the secure flag on all sensitive cookies. Then configure SSL provider to support only strong algorithm Ensure that certificate is valid, not expired, and matches all domains used by the site. Backend and other connections should also use SSL or other encryption technology. Then for directory traversal attack, define access rights to the protected areas of websites. Apply checks hotfixes that prevent the exploitation of the vulnerabilities such as Unicode to affect the directory traversal. Web server should be updated with security patches in a timely manner. Cookie and session poisoning attack. Do not store plain text or weakly encrypted password in a cookie. Implement cookies timeout also. Cookies authentication credentials should be associated with an IP addresses. Make logout functions available. Then security misconfiguration attack. For preventing this, configure all security mechanisms and turn off all unused services. Set up role permissions and accounts and disable all default accounts or change their default passwords. Scan for latest security vulnerabilities and apply the latest security patches. Then for LDAP injection attacks, perform type, pattern and domain value validation on all input data. Makes LDAP filter as specific as possible. Validate and restrict the amount of data returned to the user. Implement tight access control on the data in the LDAP directory. Perform dynamic testing and secure source code analysis. Then file injection attack. For preventing this, strongly validate user input. Consider implementing a chroot jail environment. Then PHP disable allow URL fopen and allow URL include in php.ini. And then for PHP disable register globals and use strict to find unutilized variables. And then again for PHP, ensure that all file and stream functions, that is stream star, are carefully weighted. How to defend against web application attack? Now here we can see how we can disable it, how we can defend it, and we can see how it works. So first, if you see here, we have a attacker here which is sitting on internet. It is connecting our web server or web application through the internet. Through the internet, it is connecting our web server, and then web server is having a web application stored, and web application is connected to the database server in the backend, and also this web application is stored onto the server. So that server can be a LDAP server or it's a normal server. Now what we have to secure it. So this is the whole mechanism of securing our web application. So first, when the attacker is coming from the internet, so first what we have here, before the web server, we have the use of firewall which is having the web application filters. We have to configure and use the web application filter firewall, and also IDS and filter packets. So we have to use the firewall with the IDS with the web application filtering. So it will try to filter all the traffic which is, it is configure the firewall to deny external ICMP traffic accesses on all. It will try to defend the server from here. Now the request will reach to web server. Now from the web server, the request is going to be on web application. Basically the web application is configured on the web server, but here we are assuming like it is a different thing, but it is actually configured on the same server, web server. Now from web server, the request will go to web application. Now before it goes to the web application, we should do what? We should keep the patches current. We should shut down the unnecessary services and port. so that our web server will be secure. Now whatever the query, whatever the requests are going to the web application, it should be sanitize and filter user input. That means whatever the input user is giving, it should be sanitized and filter before reaching to the application. Analyze the source code for SQL injection and minimize use of third-party apps. So we should not use more third-party applications, and we should use the we should analyze the source code for SQL injection. So we should analyze the code which is coming from the user input. It should be analyzed by the application before processing it, so that it can reject all those query strings. So if it is a query string, then it will be rejected and it will go to the dustbin. It will go into the dustbin. That means it will drop. It will not pass through. Then on the web application, the query will go to the database server and it will execute on database server, and the database server in response send the information. Now here we have to filter before it reaches the database server. So it should not reach the database server, we have to filter it here. Now after it is filtered here, then it will not reach to the database server, and database server only connect to the database using the non-privileged account. We will only use the non-privileged account to connect from web application to database server. Then use the stored procedure and parameter queries. So only stored procedure and parameters queries will be executed on database server. Grant least privilege to the database tables and columns, so that even if it is the queries reaches the server, it will not be able to do anything, because that user is not having any privilege. Now this user, if suppose attacker sends some query through this all, and if it has come to this web application and the web application has sent the query to the database server for running. Now it can do what? It can run the command of operating system. Now which operating system? The operating system where this database server is configured. So for that we have to disable the command like xp command shell. This is the command shell. This is the command. This is the option, or we can say the feature or plugin, which runs the commands of operating system through this database query. So we should disable this, so that this database server will not able to run any query on this server itself. And also we can prevent this by using the least privilege account to connect the database server, and also grant least privilege account for database and tables and columns. So even if the query reaches the database server, it will not able to run, because it is not having a proper permission. It can also run the LDAP configuration, LDAP queries also. For preventing that, perform the dynamic testing and source code analysis and make LDAP filter as specific as possible. Then on the web application, if suppose it is sending the error, if the error comes, so we should not use the default error. Disable the verbose error message and use the custom error pages. Verbose error messages will reveal lots of information to attacker. So we should disable the verbose information error messages and use the custom error instead of normal default error. Then these are the security tools we have, like Equentix Web Vulnerability Scanner. This vulnerability scanner checks web application for SQL injection, cross-site scripting, etc. It includes advanced penetration testing tool such as HTTP editor and HTTP fuzzer. Port scan a web server and runs security checks against network services. It tests web forms and password protected areas also. It includes automatic client script analyzer, allowing for security testing in Ajax and Web 2.0 apps. Then we have the other security tool, which is Watcher Web Security Tool. This Watcher is a plugin for the Fiddler HTTP proxy that previously audit a web application to find security bugs and compliance issue automatically. So this is also a security tool. Then we have NetSparker. It performs the automated comprehensive web application scanning for vulnerabilities such as SQL injection, cross-site scripting, remote code injection, etc. It delivers detection, confirmation, and exploitation of vulnerabilities in a single integrated environment. Next, we have NStalker Web Application Security Scanner, and this is an effective suite of web security assessment checks to enhance the overall security of web application against a wide range of vulnerabilities and sophisticated hacker attacks. It contains all web security assessment checks such as code injection, cross-site scripting, parameter tampering, and web server vulnerability. Then we have a security tool called Vampire Scan. This Vampire Scan allows users to test their own cloud and web application for basic attack and receive actionable result all within their own web portal. Features of this Vampire Scan is protect your website from hacker, scan and protect your infrastructure and web application from cyber attack, give you direct actionable insight on high, medium and low risk vulnerabilities. Then we have some other application security web application security tools like OWASP, ZAP, NetBrood, X5S, Web Security, Skipfish, SecureBet Vulnerability Scanner, Red Proxy. And some of the tools are graphical and most of the tools are command line tools. So we have these tools. So some of the tools are command line, some of the tools are graphical tools. Then we have web application firewall. One is Defender. This Defender is a software-based application firewall, and it complements the network firewall, IPS, and other network-based internet security products. It inspects the HTTP and HTTPS traffic for suspicious behavior, and it detects and block SQL injection attacks also. In web application firewall, we have Server Defender VP also. This Server Defender VP is a web application firewall. Is designed to provide security against web attacks. So this is a firewall where we can configure it to protect against different web services, web application attacks. Then we have these other firewall web application firewalls also available. Redware App Wall, we have Steel App Web App Firewall, IBM Security App Scan, Trustwave Web Application. We have Threat Reader, Mode Security, Qualys Guard. Now, doing the web application penetration testing. First, web application pen testing is used to identify, analyze and report vulnerabilities such as input validation, buffer overflow, SQL injection, bypassing authentication, code execution, etc. In a given application, the best way to perform the penetration testing is to conduct a series of methodical and repeatable tests and to work through all of the different application vulnerabilities. So first, identification of ports. Scan the ports to identify the associated running services and analyze them through automated or manual tests to find weaknesses. Then verification of vulnerabilities to exploit the vulnerabilities in order to test and fix the issue. And finally, remediation of vulnerabilities. Then to reset to retest the solution against vulnerability to ensure that it is completely secure. This is what the penetration testing. So this is the procedure for the penetration testing. First define the object, then gather the information, configure the management testing, authentication testing, session management testing, then denial of service testing, data validation testing, business logic testing, authorization testing, web service testing, AJAX testing. Then information gathering. So first for information gathering, we do analyze the robots.txt file, perform search engine reconnaissance, then identify the application and entry points, identify the web applications, analyze OP form, head and options HTTP request. Then analysis of error codes, test for recognize file types, extension directories, examine source of available pages, TCP, ICMP and service fingerprinting. Then perform SSL TLS testing. In this, perform infrastructure configuration management testing like source code of the application. Then perform application configuration management testing. We can get the information in the source code, log files and default error codes. Then test the file extension handling. It is confidential information about access credentials. Then verify the password of old backup and unreferended files like source code, installation patches, path, passwords for application and databases. Then test the infrastructure and application admin interface. By admin interface can be found to gain access to admin functionality. Then test the HTTP method and access T. This is for the credentials to legitimate the users. Then do the authentication testing. For authentication testing, vulnerable remember password and password reset. So for that, test for logout and browser cache management. This is authentication vulnerability. Test for the CAPTCHA. This is also for authentication vulnerability. Test for multiple factors authentication, multiple factor authentication vulnerability. Then test for the conditions. Test for race conditions. That is for the race conditions. Then session management testing. In this test for the session management schema, we have test for cookie attributes to hijack the session, test for the session fixation attack. This is also for the attacker could steal the user session, that is it is steal for the hijacking the session. Then test for exposed session variable, that means confidential information like session ID should not be revealed. If it is revealing, so what it is revealing or not, we will test that. Then test for CSRF, that is cross-site request forgery attack, that is companies and user data and operation are entirely entry web applications. Authorization testing. This is a test for path traversal. Start with the test for path traversal, that is can gain access to reserved information. Here first test for the HTTP request tampering, that means can gain illegal access to reserved function services. Test for cookie parameter tampering, use web spidering tools here. Then test for privilege escalation, that means access to resources functionality allowing a privilege escalation attack. Then for data validation testing. Testing for the reflected cross-site scripting here for data validation. Then test for stored cross-site scripting. This is also for sensitive information such as session authorization token. Then test for DOM-based cross-site scripting, cookies information to get. Test for cross-site flashing, that is for information on DOM-based cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. Perform SQL injection testing, that is to attack or perform the database information. Then perform LDAP injection testing and sensitive information about users and host you will get. Again, for data validation testing, perform ORM injection testing, perform XML injection testing, then perform CSS injection testing, then perform XPath injection testing, then perform IMAP SMTP injection technique. Then for data validation, perform code injection testing. We can perform OS commanding, perform buffer overflow testing, perform incubated vulnerability testing, and test for HTTP splitting smuggling attack. Then for denial of service testing, test for SQL wildcard attack. It will reveal the application information. Test for locking customer accounts, that is logging information. Then test for the buffer overflow to do the overflow attack. And test for user specified object allocation, that is for maximum number of objects that application can handle. Then for denial of service, test for user input as a loop counter. Write user provided data to disk. Test for proper release of resources. Test for storing too much data in session. Now for web server testing. First, gather web server information. Test WSDL. Then test XML structural. Then test XML content level. And then test HTTP get parameter and reset parameter. Then test naughty SOAP attachment and perform the replay testing. Now for testing the AJAX testing. Testing for AJAX, that means AJAX application call endpoints. Parse the HTML and JavaScript files. This is XML HTTP request object JavaScript file AJAX framework. Then use a proxy to observe the traffic. That means format of application request. It should go through the monitoring tool. That is enumerate the AJAX call endpoint for the asynchronous calls using tools such as Sprajax. Observe HTML and JavaScript files to find URLs and additional application surface exposure. Use proxies and sniffers to observe traffic generated by user, viewed viewable pages, and the background asynchronous traffic to the AJAX endpoints in order to determine the format and destination of the requests. Now, web application pen testing framework. We have Kali Linux. Kali Linux is an advanced penetration testing and security auditing Linux distribution. It contains more than 300 penetration testing tools. So basically, this Kali Linux is an operating system. It is designed based on Ubuntu. What is the difference between this and the other Linux operating system? That this one is having all the available penetration testing tools are available in this Kali Linux. It is based on Ubuntu, Debian actually. It looks like an Ubuntu. It based on Debian distribution. And in this we have all the tools, almost every tool what we need to do the penetration testing is available in Kali Linux. We can say almost more than 300 penetration testing tools available in Kali Linux. Then web application pen testing framework, we have Metasploit. This Metasploit framework is a penetration testing toolkit, exploit development platform and research tool that includes hundreds of working remote exploits for a variety of platforms. It helps pen testers to verify vulnerabilities and manage security assessments also. Then we have web application pest and pen testing framework. That is, we have browser exploitation framework. That is BEF. This browser exploitation framework is an open source penetration testing tool used to test and exploit web application and browser based vulnerabilities. This BEF provides the penetration tester with practical client side attack vectors and leverage web application and browser vulnerabilities to assess the security of a target and carry out further intrusions. Then we have PowerSploit. This PowerSploit is a collection of Microsoft PowerShell modules that can be used to aid reverse engineering, forensic analysis, analyst, and penetration tester during all phases of an assessment. Some of the PowerSploit modules and scripts are code execution, script modification, resistance, PE tools, reverse engineering, then antivirus bypass, then exfiltrations also. Okay, now there is a site here, Moviescope. So now when I go to this site, I have option to log in. Now I will log in as this user John. Password is test. I am the normal user. I have an account on this site. Okay, password is invalid. I think I have forgot the password. Okay, I don't remember the password for this John. I will go for Katie. And okay, I'm logged in as a Katie, and you can see I logged in as this user Katie. It is saying that welcome Katie, and this size is having movies. Now I will check the profile here. Now I'm checking my own profile. I have logged in as a Katie normal user, and this is saying welcome Katie, and this is the profile for this Katie user. It is saying that the user name is this, first name is Katy Perry, email address is this, gender is this, birth date, age, Mexico City, and contact detail. Now if I want to see the other users detail, other users profile, I cannot see that because I don't know the username and password for that. But if you see the URL here, if you see the clear URL here carefully, you will see here ID is equal to 3. Now that you will see here also that ID is number 3. That means this is my user account, and my user account's ID is 3. So because it is 3, this is my user ID, so the other users will also have the same. So what I will do here, I'm seeing the ID here. So what I will do, I will try to do the tampering. It is called URL tampering or tampering, parameter tampering. So what I will do, I will try to change the ID from the URL. It is called parameter tampering. I will try to give 2. ID is equal to 2 and enter. Now what I am seeing here, after doing this parameter tampering, it is still showing that I am logged in as a Katie. I have authenticated as this user, but if you see the profile, now profile is showing about this ID number 2, and that ID is about John, and this is the profile of that John user. And we can see now the user name, full name, email address, gender, date of birth, age, an address, and also we can see the mobile number. I can do get other users also. ID number 1. And now I still logged in as this Katie user, but if I check the profile, I can see the profile of that other user, that is Sam. We have the username same, that is user's ID is 1, and this is the information about that user. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing the parameter tampering attack. I'm trying to temper the parameter, and I can do that because I can see the parameter here. I can see it in URL. Now sometime it will not appear in the URL. So what we can do, we can change that parameter from the those proxy tools. Proxy tools, that means those tools we like Bob Suite or Zap proxy attacker. So we can use those tools to intercept the request, and then we can change the parameters. This is very easy, that because I can see the parameter under the URL, so I can change it from here. But sometime you will not see this here, but still you can change it. Now what is next? Next, I can do the cross-site scripting attack. Now cross-site scripting attack happens when you giving the input, when the user is giving input, and there is an input field in your site. For example, here I have an input field here, that I have an option to produce the give a comment here. This is the contact tab, and for contact us we have option to put the comments here. Now if the developer has not developed the site properly, and if the developer has not set the proper input validation, then what I can do here, I can run the query here. Now that query, that XML query, that script query will do what? It will be stored into the site. It will be stored into the site, can make the site deface. So in these search fields, or in this comment field, or on this input fields, where user can do the inputs, in these kind of fields, this scripting, cross-site scripting attack happens. So instead of normal content, attacker adds the scripts here and execute it, submits it, and that script will stored into the server on this particular site or this particular page. Now other user, when logged into this site and come to this page, this particular page, that script will execute, and it do depend on the attacker, like it do whatever the script has intended to do or meant to do. So if the attacker has created the script to just show the warning, it will show the warning, and if the attacker has created the script to do something else, so it will do something else. For example, I'm going to add a script here. This is a field where we can do the comments here. We can put our name and we can put the comment here. So I will put my name here. Now instead of comment, I will do what? I will add a script here. Script open here. Alert. I'm just adding a alert script. It will do what? It will just show the alert window, and this will say that this site is hacked, or it can be any, or maybe if suppose it can show the window of alert, and in that window it will say that you are having some problem, update this thing, update that thing, go to this site to update your this or that, and it will redirect the user to the malicious server. So it depends like what the attacker and what script the attacker will create. I'm adding only this script, and then what I will do, I will submit it here. Now what happened, it will be executed and it will be added into this page. And when the other user comes, not only on this machine, anywhere else, if the user is accessing, any user is accessing this site, and when it comes to this particular page, what it will get this, it will run this it will run this script, and it will see the window or whatever the attacker has created the script. So I am submitting it here. Now what, it is submitted successfully. Now I will log out from here. I have logged in with this user, and I will log in as a other user. Now I will log in as a Sam. Now I logged in as a Sam, not only on this machine, anywhere in the world, anywhere when you logged into this particular site, and in this contact tab, it has been updated. The cross-site scripting, the script is updated here. Now when the user goes to this page, it will see that window, it will see that alert window here. So I will click here, and you see here what it is showing, that window here, and in that window it is saying this site is hacked. Now it depends on the attacker that what alert or what type of script it will execute. Now a script is executed by the other user, and this script is affecting into this other user or any other user. I will say just okay, it is just an alert window, and it is gone. And now we can access, we can see the page here. So what is happening here, it is included in that page here with this site. So if any user comes and log into this site and come to this page, it will see that window. It will see that window, and that window, it could be any, like it depend on the script what attacker will create. So this is what cross-site scripting attack. It is called cross-site scripting attack. Now I'll show you different thing. Now we have a site or an application. It is for testing our skills. Our skills, that means whatever the attacker can do, we can see that how those attacks works and how we can secure it. We can see that attacks, we can test those attacks, we can see how the attacks can be done. And for that I have also configured one application here on local server, and if I want to access this, I will show you that. It is called the vulnerable application, or we can say the most vulnerable application. So it is configured on my local system. This is the IP of my local system, and the application name is DVWA. That is the most vulnerable application. DVWA. Now when I access this, it is asking me to log in, and it is saying the credential. I will log in as a normal user. Username is GrowDonB. Password is normal password ABC123. Okay, login failed. Let me try again. Okay, I will log in as admin then. Now here it is called DAM vulnerable web application, and in this application we have almost all the applications, all the vulnerabilities here. So I've logged in as a, he says you have logged in as an admin, and this is the instruction to use this site, general instruction, this application. And in this site you can see those different type of attacks which we can do on web application. So we can see all those different type of attacks we can do on this application here. Now I will show you some of the attacks, like for example command injection. Now when I select the command injection, it is an application which is for doing the pinging a device. Like we give the IP address here, and when we submit, so it will do the ping. It will do the ping to the remote machine. So I will do what? So here I will give the IP address to ping someone, and it will do the ping, and it will give me the ping response of the ping. So let's say suppose I give the IP address here 192.168.0. I want to ping 150 here and submit. Now what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing the response of that reply for that ping request. So when I do the ping, I get the reply here. Now there is a vulnerability here in the application, but if the vulnerability is not there, let's see here. Here is the security of this DAM application. Now right now it is set to impossible. Now impossible, that means this application is not vulnerable. It has fully secured application. Now I will show you that how it is secure. I'll go back to the command injection. Now when the application is secure, so it only accept the IP address here. It will not accept any other values. So if I try to give some other value, like if I try to give some command here, I will say I want to see the host name here. Now host name is a command of Windows to check the machine name. When I submit it, it says that no, you have entered an invalid IP. It says invalid IP address because the site is secure. Now if the site is not secure, I will change the security level to low. Now that means I have did the submit. Now that means what? The site is not secure, and now here it can accept any other value. Now what I will do here, actually I will do here what? I will put this pipe here, and then I will give any command here. Now the command will execute on the server where this site is configured. Because ping is the command of the operating system, so it can also execute the other commands. Because it is executing the ping command, so it can also execute the other commands. So I will give the pipe, and then I will mention the command which I want to execute. I will say just host name here. Now what it is doing here, it is showing me the host name of that machine, that Windows 10 machine which is actually hosting this site. Now how it is working here? So basically what I'm doing here, I will show you in command prompt. When we do the ping, so we do this by using ping command, and then we will mention the IP address of that other machine, and we enter. Now that means the ping command is executing, and we saw the input. Now that application is configured to run this command. Now if it is configured to run this command, so it can also run other commands. Now what I'm doing here, I'm using the pipe option here. Now in this side of the pipe, I'm not mentioning any command. It is fixed for ping. That means application will only accept the ping command here. But after the pipe, I can give other commands also. Pipe is used to join two commands. So pipe is used to join two commands. That means if you want to run two commands, so we can run with using the pipe. So after that, I'm using host name here. So what is happening here? I'm not giving any command this side. I'm directly giving what? Pipe space host name. Now what? I can do any command. I can run any command like this, and it will be executed on the remote machine, on the server, which is Win1, on this Windows 10 machine, which where I have configured this site. So because of the input validation, it is not validating the input what I am giving here. It can execute all the commands of Windows. For example, I want to check how many users are there. So I can do net user command. And now I can see the user's account there. These are the user accounts available on that system. Administrator, default account, guest account, this account, TISA account, use account. So these are the all accounts available on that system. If I want to check the information about the particular account, like I want to check the information about this account. So what I will do, I will use pipe net user and the name of that user. These are all Windows commands. And now what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing the information about that user. I'm seeing the whole information about that user. And how I'm seeing this? Because of the command is executing on the server. It is the command injection. And why it is possible? Because it is not validating my input. We can do lots of things here. We can actually create a new account here. For example, I want to access that server. I don't have an account, but because of this, I can do what? I can create new user account there. I can say net user, and I will say new and /add. Now the command is successful. That means this new user has been created on that server. We can check it by using pipe net user command. And this is the user which I created right now. I can see the detailed information about that user by using the net user and the user name. I can see the information about that user. And interestingly, right now this user is member of this users group. Now users group, that means it is a normal user. It is not an administrator. If you want to make this user an administrator, we have to make this user member of administrator group. How we can do that? We can do that again by using the Windows command. Because it is possible to execute all those commands, we can do that. If I want to check how many groups are there, so I will give net group local group command, and it will show me all the groups available on that machine. And I know if I want to make that user administrator, I have to make this user member of this administrator group. So what I will do, very simple, I will do run net local group command, and then I will add this user. I will name the user with the group name, and then I will say add. So the user will be added into that group. One second, I think I mismatched. Net local group, and then okay, let's check this user information. It is not added because I mistakenly local group administrator username and add. And now I will check net user new. Okay, I'm forgetting the command, but even if you know the command properly, then you can do add this user into administrator group also, because it is executing all the commands directly on the server which is hosting this site. So it is happening, it is possible because it is not identifying it is not validating the inputs. Same as we have other commands, other attacks also. We have these attacks, and we can do all these attacks like file upload attack, where we can do upload files, and we can see how we can use this vulnerability. If we have SQL injection attacks, we have XSML cross-site scripting attacks of stored and reflected and DOM. We have all these options where we can use. Now if you don't understand some of the way how to use this or how to practice this attack, it is giving you some information here. It is giving you more information. You can get the more information about this attack or this vulnerability. You can get the information from these different sources, and also you can see the source page of this file, this site or this page. This is the source page, and also you can go for help, and in the help it will show you about this vulnerability and objective of this vulnerability, and in the low level what you will get, in the medium level and high level, and in the impossible level what it says, this will check everything from all the levels so far as well, then to re-encode the image. This will make a new image, therefore tripping any non-image code including metadata. So it is not possible here. It is taking the reference from here in this file. So you have all these attacks available here which you can do the practice, and for that first you have to configure this site. So this is our hacking web application topic, where we have seen that what are the vulnerabilities we have, what are the threats of web application we have, and what are the hacking methodologies we have, and we have some of the attack methods also. We have seen some site, the damn vulnerable site, where we can test our skills of hacking these applications vulnerabilities. Those site, that damn vulnerable site, we can configure it in our local system, and then we can do the practice on that. So this is our web hacking web application topic.